Well, hello there, everybody. Welcome back to the Travel Agent Achievers podcast. I'm Roz, your host, and I'm so glad that you've joined me here today. Now, first up, welcome if this is your very first episode of the Travel Agent Achievers podcast. If it's the first one you've listened to, welcome, 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 and welcome back if it's not your first. If you're out walking, take a great, big, deep breath for me. I love that you've chosen this time for yourself. And if you're driving around, please be careful. I love that you're here. And we've recently welcomed in a number of new Achievers members into the mastermind, which has been really exciting. And I can't wait to see the growth of these guys as they soar in the coming months, and as well as welcoming in new Travel Business Foundation program members. If you're looking to get yourself back on track, or look under the hood of your travel business and see what you can do to turn things around, this is definitely the best place to start. I'll add the links to everything that we talk about today on the podcast into our show notes, but for ease, go to travelagentachievers.com and follow the links to the podcast episode, as well as all of our programs, especially if you want to take this time now to work on your travel business. Today, I have a very special guest. Someone from what I would say is the other side, not as a specific travel professional, but she's certainly done that previously. Someone who has the same determination as you, the same guts, knowledge, and expertise as you, though sits as a supplier or a wholesaler, and somebody that we love to work with. And I know you will too, if you don't already. I've known Lisa for over 10 years now, and I love seeing how she's evolved as a person and also as a businesswoman. She's taken risks, she's stood out from the crowd, and she's certainly chased her own dreams. Lisa Pagotto has a fascinating journey, creating one of Australia's leading niche travel brands, Crooked Compass. Lisa sold her home to fund her business. Wow, what a risk. And what has unraveled on her journey will have you absolutely spellbound, on the edge of your seat at times and on the brink of tears at others. With over 21 years of travel experience, she's excelled in all facets of the industry. Lisa's efforts in the experiential travel space have directly influenced the development of the experiential travel movement. Her commitment, curiosity, and daring sets new standards for the industry. With incredible stories overcoming adversity and challenges that you've never dreamed possible, Lisa has battled it all. With a passion for fading cultures, education through travel, and a new skill set of becoming a pilot, yes, at a time when tourism has been at a standstill, she's poised, whip smart, and straight shooting. She'll leave you feeling inspired after this episode, I am sure, and fired up to chase what you really want. All right, everybody, let's invite and welcome Lisa Pagotto to the Travel Agent Achievers podcast. Lisa, welcome. I am so glad that you're here. This is the first episode that I have done with somebody from the other side, a supplier, wholesaler, but you also deal directly with clients. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, great to share the story of the other side.
I see you as part of our side as well as travel professionals globally, but you run a business that works with the travel industry and travel professionals, travel agents, counselors, managers, whatever we want to call ourselves. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, and honestly, how are you doing?
Sure. So I guess a little bit about myself, so more from a background perspective. So I did come from, I guess, to me, the other side. I did start off as a travel agent, a retail agent, and went nearly 21 years ago, and worked my way through the industry, working in different facets of it, from wholesale through to working for tour operators, being a tour guide. And really the adventure space was where I sort of found my niche and my little fit within the industry. So Crooked Compass, so we're in our 8th year of trading now. And yeah, it's certainly been a very challenging past 18 months. It's very I guess almost up until COVID, or even probably a year or so before that, the business still kind of felt like it was a startup type of business. And then it really kind of found its feet, really started booming, found its little slot in the industry, and then COVID hit. So we were in a wonderful position in terms of growth, passenger numbers, the number of departures we were getting away. The team was growing, our brand recognition was growing, the trust in what we did, especially because, pre-COVID, we would focus more on your more challenging destinations, that trust in that we would be the experts in doing it safely. Everything was just going in this upwards trajectory, and, I couldn't have been happier. And then enter COVID-19. Yeah, so we were set to have our biggest year ever in 2020. I've never had so many full departures so far in advance, and it was to the point where some of our tours we were having to add on second and third departures.
Wow.
And it was like a dream. It was just this amazing thing that I never foresaw that would happen in such a short period of time, and I couldn't have been happier. We had a fantastic team. And there was just so much to look forward to the point where, I'd said to my team, if we hit X number of passengers and this revenue, I'm going to take the whole team to New Guinea at the end of the year. We're going to go and stay in a village. We're going to do this hiking. We're going to go and stay in this luxury resort. We're going to sort of do a bit of every single standard, every single style, and have a true Crooked Compass trip. And we're all going to go and build a product together. And so that was our aim. Everyone was excited. And yeah, COVID took all that away from us. So in terms of how we're doing now, we went very backwards like everybody else. My team basically slowly disintegrated as COVID continued month by month. Yes, of course, we did have the blessing of JobKeeper for a little while in 2020, but it wasn't enough to cover people's full salaries, and not knowing how long COVID would go for, I had to be smart with cash flow, and topping up wasn't really an option when the amount of work wasn't there. Once we'd sort of cancelled the 2020 season and worked through those cancellations, refunds and credits, there really wasn't a lot to do. There were months where the phones didn't ring at all, and we'd be lucky if we got 1 or 2 emails a day, to the point where I thought that we actually had an IT problem and our systems weren't working. It was just so quiet. It almost felt quieter than when no one actually knew what Crooked Compass was. It was just very eerie, and to go from having, so we were a team of 7, and very slowly we then became a team of 2. And, at the end of the day, I basically said to my staff that they need to look after themselves. Don't worry about me or about Crooked Compass. This is my problem by choosing to run my own business, but you need to look after yourself. You've got mortgages, you've got families. Crooked Compass will be here on the other side, but I just need to make sure that I manage it so that it is. So it ended up getting to the point where it went back to being just me. And whilst that is very sad and depressing, it allowed me to know that we could get through this. It allowed me to have the ability to look at our cash flow, forecast worst case scenario in terms of if we only got like 1 booking away a month or anything like that, and to work out how long we could last if we didn't get another sale. And, once I could see that vision, and I knew, if COVID went on for 3 years and it was just me, we would still be here. So it was just about playing smart and just about looking at things instead of constantly looking at the growth opportunities that, I was used to working with. It was the reverse, looking at worst case scenario. And so whilst we're not in the ideal situation, no one is right now, but we're in a great position in terms of we will be here when things reopen, and we have the reserves behind us to be able to scale up when we need to. So it's tough and it's challenging, but I think that it's been managed well to ensure that we're here on the other side.
I love that you've brought that up straight out of the gate, cash flow forecasting, because this is something that we did as well within our travel business. And I went out to the Travel Agent Achievers community and said, right, this is what, if I'm doing this, right, I want to also help you do it too, and prepare for the worst, because I mean, my goal is to see as many travel professionals come through this time so that they can help the clients on the other side. And I think we've also seen our roles as travel professionals and travel agents, counselors, we've seen our roles also change in risk management. We're interpreting legal documents and, refunds, reissues. Terms and conditions, all of those sorts of things. Like, we're having to decipher and give our clients the best possible opportunity to travel when they can. But hearing you doing that as well to come through this time gives us also a lot of hope to say, and confidence. I think that's the other thing, knowing that you're not doing, you're not going backwards, and you have gone backwards, but you have put your stake in the sand to say, I'm going to come through this time. And that's what I love speaking to you, because you've got that determination and that grit and the willingness to get through, even though it's incredibly hard. So thank you for sharing that and looking at these worst case scenarios. But I know you've also done some other things over the last 18 months, and you've shifted your business where it was majority, I would say, international. Would that be right?
Yeah, we only had one domestic tour pre-COVID. So yes, big changes for us.
Yeah, but they're also a huge success. Like, you sold out your walking tours. Can you share a little bit about what you decided to do? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah, sure. So I guess we were in a bit of a unique position when COVID hit. So one of my team, she used to be a tour guide for an inbound company, an American company that brought Aussies into Australia, a high-end company. And we, in our sort of normal outbound international product portfolio, there would be certain months, sort of, November-ish would start to get a little bit quiet for us, because we didn't really have anything running from November through to March. And that would be when we would do all of our recontracting, we'd do website updates, all that sort of stuff, and do strategy for the year ahead. And she said to me, Lisa, when it starts to get quiet, I'd love to look into seeing if we can build some domestic product for Crooked Compass. And I was kind of like, I don't know. I just think it would be quite difficult to sell our style to us at our price point to Australians. And she said, no, not for Australians. I want it to be for the American market. I know the US market, and you've seen we're getting more and more Americans on our international tours that are finding Crooked Compass. If you're okay with it, I'd love to just chip away and create some ideas for us to discuss. And I said, yeah, go for it. Put something together, present it to me, and we'll have a chat. So she started working on sort of, I guess, skeleton itineraries for a domestic product range. And so when COVID hit in March, by April, we were in a position where we had 9 domestic tours ready to go.
Yeah.
The itineraries were already built. They just hadn't been contracted. And so I guess we were in a very fortunate position to be able to, the word pivot came out very quickly, but it wasn't really an intentional pivot. It was something that was kind of already happening, and timing just worked well for us. So I think that we were actually the first company to come out with that swing from an international focus to domestic. And, like that was at a very interesting time where no one knew how long COVID would last. We all sort of had, it'll be like SARS, it might be 6 months, or, it'll only affect Asia. And so we were all we weren't delusional. We just didn't have the information as to, the seriousness of how it would be. And so we rolled out these 9 products. Our Queensland product sold out within 48 hours. And I was like, yeah, okay, we can survive with this domestic stuff. It's not what we do, but it's what we've got for the moment. And we just sort of kept perfecting and kept tweaking the product to make it as Crooked Compass as we could, in terms of having things that were remote and unique and, culturally immersive and authentic. And whilst, we couldn't really have the sort of stigmatism that we love to have in our international tours, we did the best that we could to make it fit with our brand values. And so that sort of gave us a glimmer of hope that our domestic product really could get us through however long this was going to last. And then we had all the issues with state borders opening and closing, and it was like, well, what can we do? We can't even get our guests to Queensland. We can't get them to Western Australia. We can't do anything. So maybe we just need to relook at this again and look at what we can do closer to home. And, New South Wales, we were in quite a privileged position, because the way that our government managed things was they really wanted to avoid lockdown at all costs. It was always a last resort in the way that things were managed. Correct. And so for me, I was only looking at New South Wales because I was here and I could hear what was going on with the conversations around lockdowns. And, you know, Gladys made it very clear that she wanted to keep things open so that our economy could keep going. And so that was when we came up with the concept of the foodie tours. So one of the foodie tours that we do, which is the Afghan, Syrian and Persian foodie tour, I actually took my team on as a Christmas party a couple of years before. And it was when the company that we partner with, so they employ refugees who have incredible stories that have come out from those countries that are focused in that foodie tour, and train them as guides. And, you know, the storytelling is incredible. And so we'd sort of got into a bit of an ongoing conversation with this enterprise about the crossover between what we do and what they do, and the stories that we deliver internationally to our guests who are physically experiencing these destinations versus the other side of the story for the people who have fled those countries and have come to settle in Australia, and what that synergy would look like. And it was a pretty quick decision to realise, hey, we can run a heap of foodie tours. This is one way that we can keep people connected to our brand, connected to the cultures that we visit and the communities that we support abroad, keep that storytelling alive, which is such a huge part of our product in terms of educating people, keeping people curious, and also understanding and breaking down cultural barriers, but we can do it in our own backyard. So we came out with the 2 foodie tours, and all we've had to do is keep adding on more and more departures because we don't have enough availability. Yeah. So we're basically in this challenging position now where, because of the lockdown, all of our August and September departures are running out of dates for the rest of the year for guide availability because there's just so much demand.
Wow.
So it's, you know, it's not a money maker, and it's never been about that with these day tours. It's been about a way to keep being able to build those connections and relationships to our brand, and to keep that cultural connection and that element of education alive while people can't travel, and to basically try and, you know, give them those things that they crave when they travel and the reasons why people travel, but just in a smaller package version here, because it's all we've got at the moment, and it's worked wonderfully for us.
Yeah, I know a number of people that have been on those foodie tours and day tours, and they just love it. But also others that have been on some of your Australian experiences and the culture. I mean, it gives me goosebumps because it's the experiences that you offer are so ingrained with your values and what you want to share with the world, these experiences. You know, it brings so much joy to me, and I know those that do the tours and experiences with you. So I want to make sure that everybody checks out Crooked Compass moving forward, because you have that real personalized touch to everything that you do, which brings us back to how you and I actually met back with when you were working for Matt McLaughlin and Battlefield Tours.
Yeah.
So back in those days, you were doing the contracting and putting together the tours from a back end. Is that right?
Yeah, it was a very mixed role. So I was employed to work there with a couple of different hats. So for Matt McLaughlin Battlefield Tours, I was their sales and marketing manager. And then on top of that, I was employed to build McLaughlin Experiences, which was a brand that didn't exist at the time. My job was to create that brand, build I think we had 194 tours or something, do all of that contracting, write all the content, do all the imagery, and basically get it preferred, get it selling, get it trading. So I had the 2 hats. And then whilst doing that, they also bought Discover Asia. So I became the national sales and marketing manager for that 3rd brand as well.
Just a slight role.
Yeah, just a role of 3 people crammed into one. But no, it was fantastic. You know, the experience that I got from that, and the people that I got to meet, obviously yourself included. You know, it was incredible just to have that exposure and to get that experience of 3 different brands at once. Yeah, amazing.
So what inspired you to start your own operation and come up with Crooked Compass? Like what was the beginning stages for you? Because you had all of these bits and pieces of experience, you know, the national sales and marketing roles and the contracting and knowing the right places to go, but what made you start your own thing?
Well, it was a combination of 2 things. So one of them was when I was working with the McLaughlins, was having built that new brand for them, and getting that trading was a light bulb moment of, oh my God, I've actually just built an entire brand for somebody else. Why aren't I doing this for me, but in my style? And prior to that, I had Crooked Compass, but it was just a blog. And it was me writing about all these weird, wonderful, and amazing places that I'd had the privilege to travel to. And that ended up being what the base was for the start of the Crooked Compass touring product. So yeah, a bit of a light bulb moment, bit of a, I guess, guidance from people who I had sort of shared the fact, like one of the challenges that I had was that above me at McLaughlin was the CEO. There wasn't really an opportunity for me to grow further within my role and to further my career. And I'd expressed that with a mentor that I had at the time. And I'd also shared with him about my Crooked Compass blog that was randomly getting a following really, really quickly. And he sort of provided guidance and introductions to people who he felt I needed to have a conversation with that could perhaps, I guess, without telling me what to do, steer me to coming to the realization myself that I could actually do this for myself.
Yeah.
And yeah, it basically unfolded from there.
So you've worked with business mentors and coaches right back to those days. I mean, is that something that you've always invested in? I know for me, I've always invested in business coaches. And I was one of those people back when I was in corporate as a corporate sales and marketing person, I was traveling the world, but I was that person that was in the news agencies at the airports buying those business books and then seeking out those right people that I wanted to work with and could relate to. So have you always had somebody that's in your corner like that?
No, I haven't. And it was one of those things that I actually didn't really understand. I'd heard the word mentor, but to me, I was like, oh, it sounds so American. Like, what is this? Like, I don't understand what this person just helps you for free. Like, it just made no sense to me at all. And I just couldn't quite get my head around the concept of why someone would mentor someone. I'm like, people have managers who get paid to do this. Like, it was just a very foreign concept to me. Until I got invited to go along to an event with Time, the travel industry mentor experience. And that was really where it finally clicked to me that people get gratification for helping others. And, especially people who have been there and done that and can see that sort of next generation coming through. And if they see something in you and they believe in you, that's huge for a lot of people to be involved in someone else's journey. And that was really when I understood what a mentor actually meant. And that was when I started to look into if perhaps I should do something like that. So it wasn't something that was obvious to me. It wasn't something that I wanted. I knew about business coaches and that sort of thing, but I didn't think that they were relevant if you didn't own your own business. To me, they were for, like someone in my position now, but not when I was an employee for somebody else. And, I've always been fascinated by management and people management and that sort of thing. And when I've managed staff, looking at ways to develop them, but to me, that was my job, and it was very foreign to me. But once I got it and was involved in it, and then realized that a lot of mentoring actually happens without you even knowing you're doing it. It's just very natural. And, there's people who contact me and say, hey, I'd just love to have a coffee with you. And of course, so many people gave me their time when I was starting out my business, and absolutely, I would do the same for them. And then I see my name get referenced as being a mentor for somebody else. And to me, it's just natural, so many people helped me out. Of course, I'm going to do the same for people who ask for help or guidance or whatever it is. And, I got quite involved with Time. I ended up being on their committee for a while. I even did the course twice because I got so much value out of having that support and guidance and structure from someone who thought completely differently to the way that I did. I think it's certainly something that's very important for self-development for an external person who's not in your organization, to be able to assist with that personal and career growth.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's so important that we have people like yourself and mentors that I know for me, if somebody calls me and I say to our community, just send me a message. If you're stuck somewhere or you need some help with something, if I've been there before, I will show you what I've done. If I've made the mistakes, I will share those with you. But if I've also had success with something, I will share the exact steps that I took in order to get there. But if I don't know something, I will generally know someone else that has had that experience that I can then refer these people to. But I think mentoring and coaching is, now more so than ever, such a great opportunity for the industry to get the help to work on your business, to help you grow and scale and learn, rather than just doing what you always thought you should do. And a lot of people get into becoming their own travel business or starting their own business to often create a job for themselves, and not necessarily be looking at the big picture or the potential that they could have. So I'm loving the opportunity to be able to guide and support people looking at different things to go, hey, you could also do this differently if you wanted to. So I'm so glad that you've had that experience and in yourself with the mentors and people that you've surrounded yourself with. And that brings me to your stint on Shark Tank, the TV show.
Yes.
Where I know that you've continued to connect with several of the sharks following your experience. I mean, what was that like? I know that what have you learned from being on a TV show like that? You took Crooked Compass to the show. That was just amazing to see you on there. I'm like, go Lisa, go Lisa. What was that like?
It was a very interesting experience, and I use the word interesting because 99.9% of the businesses that go on Shark Tank have some sort of tangible product, something like a piece of tech or a food item or something that's physical. So for me, I couldn't really bring in some African tribe and get them to speak their click tongue or anything like that. So I honestly, it was my dad. He was the one that told me to apply. And
how awesome is that to have that support and say, hey, just do it.
Yeah. And I was like, why would I do it? My show doesn't fit with the mold of what they're looking for. And he goes, no, but they'll be looking for something different. Maybe they don't want tangible. Maybe they don't want another juicer. Maybe they don't want another, making flour out of crickets or whatever. Just apply, just do it. You'll learn so much through the process. And
Correct.
So I was like, yeah, okay, whatever, I'll apply, Dad. And started the process and just kept getting that call back for the next step. And it's not a quick process. And, I look at other reality TV shows that are through the same production company, and I know what goes on behind the scenes. I know, you've got this beyond the, writing a pitch, doing a photo shoot, doing a pitch video, having a mock-up set that you have to create yourself and pretend you're on TV, and having, people who, they're the producers, act as the sharks to see and throw hard questions at you to see how you would stand up if you were actually in front of a camera, let alone standing there with 37 cameras on you. It's a very interesting behind the scenes experience, and the amount of psych testing and psychology that goes on that you would never in a million years imagine from, being a viewer, how they prepare you, because, even if you have the most amazing product, you're going to get ripped apart because people are cruel and people are jealous. And you have to be, and because of social media being the powerful platform that it is, they need to know that if you're going to be on TV, that you can cope with what comes with that. People don't like your hair.
Were you ripped apart after being on the show? I know 2 people that were actually on it, including yourself as one, but I mean, did you get backlash?
Yeah, I did. And
really?
It still continues today. So that was filmed in 2016 and in 2017. And so I had someone external managing my social media for the week after Shark Tank. That was the advice of the psychologist from the show. And it wasn't because I didn't want to look at what was on there, but it was because it was for my own, mental health, in terms of the adrenaline and the emotions that come from seeing yourself on primetime TV, and the reaction of the community around you, both positive and negative, is extremely overwhelming. And to have social media, which can be taken out of context and misinterpreted, added into that, it was just one thing that could be removed. There was no need for me to be scrolling through Twitter and all that sort of stuff. So I had somebody else managing that for me. And the night that it aired, he said to me, just do not look at your Twitter account. And whilst 99% of things were positive, there were horrible, horrible, horrible people. And that was just the public. But then, TV is made to be TV. They want drama. And so, for my product being something that I've so carefully built with so much integrity and research, and making sure that the remote and fragile communities we visit to, that we're providing positive impact, of course, that's going to be a clickbait heading.
Of course.
If you want to twist it the other way. And
media.
Yeah, and that's what the producers do. You know, you Google Crooked Compass Shark Tank, and the first thing that comes up is like ethical questions raised, and
Right.
you know that's what the media do, and you have to be prepared for that. And you know they're going to do that, and they tell you they're going to do that. But for people who don't know that you've been prepared for that, people just think you're being attacked and you're being pulled down, which you are, but you do get a heads up that that's expected. But yeah, the psychology behind it and the amount of assessing they do in the casting process right before you go on set to film, and then afterwards you have to do a debrief. You're not allowed off set, you're not allowed to leave the set until they feel that you are stable and that your emotions are under control. And yeah, it's full on. It's quite incredible. I guess that they've got a duty of care. And I dread to think for the businesses that go on there as a bit of a joke, what it must be like for them. It must be horrible. But you know, behind the scenes, there is a lot of support to make sure that you know you are processing, because it's huge. Like when that first, because I was on Shark Tank twice, once when it was the pitch, and then a year later when they did a follow-up. So that first 12 minutes, so that was 2.5 hours in one take. That was cut to 12 minutes.
12 minutes. TV.
Yeah. Yes, and so it was very heavily edited. It changed what I said with the way it was edited. I saw the episode 2 days before it went to air, and I was devastated. I was devastated that my words were twisted, and I had an event. I had people that were coming to watch this be aired. I had trade media coming along, and I wanted to cancel the whole thing. I was so upset with how it was portrayed. It made me look like I was terrified the entire time, which I was, but you know, it made it look like I didn't even know how to smile. And then I realized, you know what? Nobody else knows that I've actually filmed for 2.5 hours, and nobody else knows what was said on set apart from me and the people managing 37 cameras and the sharks.
Yeah.
So, you know, it is what it is. And when that aired, I was due to go to New Guinea 2 days later to escort a group. I had 2 interns working for me at the time who basically had to run the business for me, because I didn't imagine what was going to come out of all of this. I have never seen anything like it. One of the sharks, Steve Baxter, I caught up with him a couple of times before the episode finally went to air, and he'd said to me, you need to make sure that you have a CDN in place for your website. I'm like, I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's basically where your website gets cast across multiple different servers. So if you get too much traffic, your website's not going to crash, and the other servers basically keep your website live. And so we got some information from the producers as to expected website traffic and blah, blah, blah. And they told me to prepare for, I think it was around 37,000 people on my website at one time. So we set it up to be stable at 50,000, just to sort of have a bit of a buffer. And the website was down for almost 2 days with over 187,000 people on it.
Wow.
And it would pop up every now and then when traffic would sort of drop a little bit, and it was just insane. Our live chat was exploding. Our phones did not stop. The messages that were coming in, the emails, things through social media, because it was taking too damn long to reply to emails. It was insane. Media wanting to talk to me about my story. I can't even, I think it took something like 6 days just to clear the emails from that first 24-hour period after the show aired. It was just out of control. Yeah, it was insane in the best possible way. And then, you know, a year, and then because they replay the Shark Tank episodes on like 10 play and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So even now it still gets replayed every couple of months. We'll get this like flurry of website traffic and random people that email saying, oh, I saw you on Shark Tank, blah, blah, blah. Business looks different. I'm like, yeah, that was filmed like 5 years ago.
Yeah. So publicity works.
Right? Yeah, it does.
That's something else that we talk about. And one of my good friends, Christina Lenkowski, she's a publicity expert, but specifically for tourism. She's based in the States. And I've had her on the podcast, and I've also had her in our mastermind as well, talking about the power of publicity. So you've seen that real life and the impact that it can have just by telling your story and getting out, you know, to the world.
Yeah, and then just to sort of really quickly further add to that, a year later, so my business is the only business that's ever filmed a follow-up on Shark Tank where the business didn't get investment.
Yeah.
So the reason that I got to film that follow-up was, well, partly I had one of the sharks on one of our tours. So we were filming part of the follow-up footage whilst we were on tour with reindeers in the remotes of Mongolia. And secondly, because even though I didn't get investment, and the reason I didn't get investment was because at that time, my business was just me and it was too high risk. So if I got hit by a bus, the business wouldn't have been able to continue.
Yeah.
But the support that I got from the sharks beyond that was, and not just from one, but multiple sharks, was not normal for the Shark Tank process. And so they wanted to be able to capture that. And my pitch ended up being voted the most popular pitch for the whole 2017 season. So
amazing.
Yeah, it was very, very cool. And so all of these elements tied together, the producers wanted to do a follow-up. The follow-up was only 1 minute. But that 1 minute of footage a year later, we got even more traffic and more.
I was just going to say, did you increase your server experience?
We did. I think our website crashed with 238,000 people or something.
Wow.
From the following 1 minute follow-up.
Amazing.
It was just insane. And I guess that was a positive story because it was talking about the growth of the business since it was initially on the show. And it was huge. It was very significant. And yeah, as you say, power of the media, just insane, absolutely insane. And yeah, just very, not a normal experience to have gone through, but something that, really put Crooked Compass on the map.
I was just going to say, it put the business on the map, and it saw then exponential growth, as you said right at the beginning here, of Crooked Compass and your experiences and growth of the business itself and getting out there to more people, which is amazing. And that brings me to working with travel agents globally, because I hear that you also had an American following as well. So people in the States who were joining your tours wherever they were in the world. So what role has the travel industry as travel agents played in Crooked Compass's growth?
Yeah, so the travel agents and the travel industry in general, it is really the backbone of the business and has been right from the beginning. So, when I first started Crooked Compass, it started by me leaning on those travel agents that I know, that I've got relationships with, and people who believed that I could do what I was, promoting that I could do, because they'd seen what I'd done when I was with McLaughlin, and prior to that, what I did with Kamuka. And, I sort of had these agents that loved what I did and the way that I did things. And they followed me through my, sort of adventure tour operator part of my career. And so when Crooked Compass was mine, those agents, they were the group of people that I leaned on to help get my product out there. And even still today, what are we sitting at? So at 30 June, I think we were still 70% trade. And, I've always made sure that our product is very travel agent friendly. I've always made sure that we've given nice, healthy commissions, because agents, that's what got me my start in terms of getting Crooked Compass off the ground, getting people to talk within the industry, getting agents to recommend my product to their clients because they believed in me and what I could deliver. So yeah, it's a huge part of my business, and certainly not one that I take for granted, and one that I always try to support wherever I possibly can. Because of how significant it's been to the development of Crooked Compass. Yeah,
I even have Kirsten, who's part of our community, who's joined a number of your local experiences as well. I see that with the travel community wanting to get behind you, and I love that you are continuing to support them as well. So what do you see the role? I mean, how do you perceive the role of travel agents in the future, particularly for Crooked Compass, but also other businesses? Do you see their role changing or bringing them in closer? What do you feel is going to happen?
I feel that from a retail travel agent perspective, there's going to be a bit of a shift in terms of needing to have an expertise, and really, it's always been a delicate conversation about if there should be service charged, and I guess that element of value around the service that a travel agent provides. And whilst everybody in the industry absolutely knows that you deserve every cent that you earn plus more, unfortunately that's not the perception in the public. So for me, I really think that there's such a huge opportunity for agents to really follow their own passions, yeah, of course you can still sell the entire world, but you know, if your passion is adventure travel and doing things that are offbeat and different, find those companies that meet that need for you, and you know, build those relationships and really, you know, get into the nitty-gritty of that product, so that if someone comes in and says to you, oh, I want to go walking in Palestine, you go, oh yeah, I absolutely know who can do that. And yeah, build those relationships. I think that, you know, that with retail travel agents, there's always going to be those relationships with the big players, with the big popular brands like your Scenics and your APTs, because they've got such a huge database and such a huge loyalty and following. But I think post-pandemic, it's going to be those agents that have a niche and that have a specialization, and that is really where value comes through, being able to demonstrate to someone knowledge that is not easily found online, things that, you know, with our product, if I look at the process of how people inquire and book from a direct perspective, we get 9 million questions before someone commits to putting down a deposit because of the nature of our product. And that is really where the value of a travel agent comes in. You know, we don't sell air. So pretty much every single direct booking we get, we're saying, do you have a travel agent? Because we want them to look after the whole thing. And I mean, we're not going to push it. It's up to the client to make that call. But for a product like ours, you kind of need a travel agent. There's so many elements. The destinations are challenging. The flight routes are often challenging. The visa process is often challenging. And they're things that people can't necessarily do independently unless they've done it multiple times before. And so I feel that, you know, whilst it's not as easy as just ringing and booking a spot on a Trafalgar tour, that is where you're going to really see the value and really be able to get that customer retention and that trust and loyalty and demonstrate value.
Yeah, I love that. It's you and I are so on the same page, Lisa, with the expertise and value and niching down and really becoming known for a specific things. So I love that we're both speaking the same language to the community as well. So what do you believe that travel professionals globally could be doing right now, not just for their own business, but to support suppliers like yourself and also future-proof their business with those clients? Like, do you see an opportunity right now that they could be, you know, helping you future-proof your business? Or what could we be doing? Like, what could we be doing to support you?
I think it's more about, like, I get people hear the name Crooked Compass and they go, oh yeah, I know Crooked Compass. But do you actually? You know, it's taking the time to really understand what certain brands do and why they do it. I think that the choices that people make in terms of why they choose to travel and what they want to get out of travel is going to change post-pandemic. We've all been locked up for so long. Obviously, other parts of the world have had freedoms more than we have, but it's given people a lot of time to really reassess what they want and why they travel. So there's going to be a shift in the way people travel. And I think from a travel advisor perspective, understanding that and knowing what is available, but knowing it at a deeper level. I mean, it might only be that, you know, you have a page in your notebook or saved on your cloud or whatever about a supplier, just a summary as to what they do and what type of client you would send to them. But just being conscious of having that information at hand, because people are going to slow down the way they travel, and then people are going to look for ways to make less of an impact. People are going to be more responsible in how they travel. And there's so much product out there, you know, you can't possibly have an in-depth knowledge of everything and everyone, but every person in the travel industry has an understanding of what they want to sell and what they want to deliver to their client, in terms of, if you're someone that's very passionate about conservation and leaving a light footprint, you're not going to go and tell them to, you know, charter a, that's using high octane supplier. Yeah, it's, you know, and if you're someone who loves the, I guess, the more natural world and doing things like wellness retreats, you know, find a collection of companies that fit with the values that you want to be selling. At the end of the day, you're the person that's advising and providing the advice, and it should align with who you are as a person and who you want your business and brand to be. So yeah, I mean, I think it's just more about taking time to identify who is in the market, what they're offering and why they're offering it, so that you have an honest sell to your client. And that's what people are going to be looking for.
An honest sell. I love that. That's awesome. Now, talking about footprints, you have done something extraordinary during this time for yourself by getting your own pilot's license. Like, was this on your bucket list? How
No.
have you managed to do this all during lockdown? Like, tell me about that.
Yeah, so that was really random. No, it wasn't on my bucket list. It wasn't even something that remotely ever crossed my mind. I don't think I even knew how you would even possibly start if you wanted to try and get a pilot license. But I got to this really weird kind of breaking point in COVID times last year in 2020, and the business was dead. I had no staff left. The phone wasn't ringing. My inbox was empty. I hadn't got to the point of accepting that I needed to take up alternate income at that point. And I was literally just staring at an empty inbox day in, day out. There was no new product to build because who knew when we could travel again. And I hadn't been on a plane for about 6 months at this time. And for me, I'm usually on a plane at least 2 or 3 times a month. And I was going insane. I was going crazy, not even being able to go to the airport. And then, like, I live up out of Sydney towards on the Central Coast.
The Central Coast,
and, Newcastle Airport reopened, and I think there was 1 flight a day going from Newcastle Airport. And I thought, oh my God, I'm just going to go and work from the airport. Just going to go and work remotely. I just need to be in an airport. And it was like a construction site. People were painting the walls. There's like no passengers. It was so dead. I had to climb under the like rolled down security door to get through. And
I could see you doing that. So I was like that here in Port Macquarie. See a plane come over. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so I would literally go and sit at Newcastle Airport just to try and get that fix. And then one day, I don't know if I put something on social media about working out of Newcastle Airport, but a travel agent contacted me and said, oh, my husband looks after charter planes for one of the airlines based up at Newcastle. Do you want to go and inspect a plane? And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Sure. And so I went and checked out this plane, and I was like, this is really cool. Like, how cool to be able to charter a plane, but it's not our market. It's not what we do. And I know nothing about this space. And then as we sort of easing started to happen with restrictions, I thought, why don't I go down to Bankstown Airport? That's a bit of an adventure for the day. And I contacted a few companies down there that were doing charter planes and organised to go and inspect a few aircraft to just understand that world a little bit more, because it got my mind ticking. And I thought, this is really cool. I just don't know how I can integrate it with my business, but I think there's something here. I'm just going to keep pushing and hopefully pieces fall into place. And as I walked out of the door of Bankstown Airport, there was a flyer that said, get your pilot's license. And I picked it up and I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. Oh, I'll just chuck it in my bag. I'll have a read when I get home. And literally my drive from Bankstown back up to the Central Coast, I walked in the front door and I said to my husband, I said, would you mind if I got my pilot's license? And he was like, yeah, you need to get out of the house. Yeah, no, go for it. And so literally within like the next week, I'd booked a trial flight, and and then started doing my my pilot license right after that. And that was when it started to click that, hey, we can't go anywhere at the moment. We can only travel within Australia. All of a sudden, I'm getting this incredible knowledge about the aviation sector that I didn't have previously and how the charter world works. People want to travel within Australia, and so much of it is really accessible by self-drive. But what about those remote reaches that people don't feel confident driving to, where you may need a four-wheel drive or it could take days to get there? And what about the people who have money and money isn't an option? So, or money isn't an issue, I should say. And so I built Crooked Compass by Air, literally just trying to piece all that together and to find another way of bringing in revenue, of delivering an awesome product that still fitted with Crooked Compass, but it was just another level, which is why we've set it up as a separate business, Crooked Compass by Air. And it unfolded from there. And then I continued flying. And
so 2 things on that. So are you going to be the pilot?
No.
For Crooked Compass. Oh,
no.
Gee, now that would be an experience, Lisa. Just putting that out there, that'd be an experience. Maybe get you a few more hours though before I'd get on board with you.
Yeah. See, this is the thing, it has crossed my mind, and that would be incredible for me to be able to fly our own passengers. However, I don't have the $120,000 required to get to that point. And I've got other things that I need to do with my business.
Correct. Absolutely. But you did do something amazing, which I loved following your journey, which was to fly into Sydney Airport whilst it was deserted. Like when you were piecing that together and doing your research on it and mapping it all out and all the rest of it, I'm like, go you. Like, what was that like?
It was very cool, but it was one of those things that was so surreal that it almost didn't feel real until a couple of days later when I looked back at the footage. Yeah, it was just something that I don't even know how it came into my head. You know, during COVID, when there were so many planes grounded and you would see these funny things come through of people drawing like penises as a flight path in the sky.
I know, right?
And I used to show my flight instructor and I'd be like, hey, have you ever done anything like this? And he's like, I could lose my license if we did this. And I was like, oh, okay. And then it just started getting the creative side of my mind thinking, and what could we do? And then I thought, I wonder if I could fly into Sydney Airport. I don't know if I'd be allowed, but ask the question. And my instructor nearly fell off his chair. He thought it was the coolest thing in the world. He's, you know, been flying for 100 years and he's never flown into Mascot ever. And, you know, he's this student. I think I'd only been flying for about 4 months at that point. And he's like, oh, it's going to be so, you know, this is going to be difficult, the time slots, there was all these barriers. And I said, I don't care, figure it out. Like, you're not the one paying for it. I want to do it. I want to do it. Tell me if you need me to help, who do I need to speak to? And so we did. We made it happen. And at that point, I think it was only 10% of the time slots at Sydney Airport were being used. So yeah, it was incredible. And flying this tiny little plane, the fire crew filmed it as it came in because it was so teeny tiny. And you just see these like huge United Airlines cargo and Jetstar cargo waiting to come out onto the runway, but they had to wait for my little plane to pass past. And yeah, it was insane. And you know, where I do my flight training, it's not a towered airport. There is no air traffic control up in the Hunter Valley where I fly. And so to fly into Sydney Airport and everything's like Jetstar this, United Airlines that, JAL this, it was just and constant and moving between all these different stations. It was incredible. It was very, very cool.
Very, very cool. That is something that you will never forget. And I will never forget just watching that whole experience unfold. So thank you for giving me that opportunity.
Oh, no worries. I've got other ones planned that.
Oh my gosh, serious?
They'll probably be early next year before these ones get off the ground now with this current lockdown. But yeah, there's a few more cool plane trips coming up that I'm working on.
Bring it on. I love it. Now, you mentioned your husband before briefly and encouraging you to go and do something for yourself, which is awesome. And we've seen that. I mean, I'm seeing it now more so than ever during the lockdowns, the support that our partners and families are either giving us or going, hey, you know, is it time to leave the industry? Do you need to be looking at different things? So with your husband and also your beautiful son, like juggling and owning a successful travel business, how are you managing, or how did you manage, and how are you even doing that now, juggling the family life and your travel you know, opportunities and your schedules? How are you managing all of that together as well as owning a business?
Well, the travel schedule is non-existent right now.
So but previously, and John was like a baby when you were doing all of that.
I know. Yeah, it's just about finding the balance. And you know, right from the beginning, when we adopted our son, it was about who's going to play what role. And what do we want our son to get from each of us playing those roles? So he decided he wanted to be the stay-at-home dad and I would be the career mum. And basically my travels have changed, obviously, because I've got the responsibility of being a mother. But at the same time, I want my son to grow up to seeing that if you want to do something, you can do it and nothing's going to stop you. And as long as you're, you know, in the right team, and you can figure anything out. And so it hasn't actually really been a challenge, because that's just how it was right from the beginning. It's certainly exhausting and tiring. But I think because my life is generally so full on all the time anyway. It just, you know the saying, give a busy woman a job.
And it'll get done. I agree. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
It's kind of like that. And yeah, I mean, things do go wrong. And, like especially when tours were operating overseas, you'd have someone run up the back of a vehicle, or you'd have a passenger trip over and break an ankle, or something like that. And those things take you away from, but they're short-term things, and it's part of owning your own business. I think it's just about having an understanding of what each person's responsibility is and how you want that to be perceived. And yeah, at the end of the day, it's teamwork.
Yeah, that's right. So do you have a specific routine that you would say, right, up until 9 o'clock or 9:30, I'm not going to be focused on work and be ready for homeschool, like school coming home? Or like, have you got a specific routine in place where you say this is work time and this is home time?
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's a bit thrown out the window at the moment, but in normal times, I do not look at my phone before I get on the train to go to the office. I'll look at it on the train, but not when I'm at home. When I'm in my house, it's mum mode. And same thing, when that clock hits 5:30 and our phones switch off, I do as best as I can to end my day then and go back into mum mode, so that my boy gets the mum at home that he deserves. And yeah, I mean, that doesn't always work. You get phone calls of people that have missed flights, or whatever it might be, luggage that hasn't turned up, that might get a call at 2 o'clock in the morning, but you just deal with it. It's not an everyday occurrence. And yeah, it's just about being strict and sticking to what you need to do.
That's right. Having that balance there, but managing it really well, and solid communication. I mean, hats off to you and your husband for actually having those conversations initially to know who was going to do what and your roles, and to work through it as best you can together. There's always going to be hiccups, and I think in any relationship that's going to happen anyway, but knowing that this is my role and responsibility, and then being able to switch on and off when you need to, hats off to you, Lisa. That's awesome to do that. So moving forward, what can we expect from Crooked Compass and the goals that you have?
Well, I guess there's a couple of different things. So for us, we're so keen just to get our international borders open so that we can start doing what we do best, and getting back to educating people and taking people to some of the most fragile and remote corners of the planet.
Are you already open for forward bookings, or have you held off on that? Like, where's your headspace with that right now?
Yeah, well, we've still been running a couple of international tours because not all of our travellers are from Australia.
Ta-da!
So yeah,
diversity. Yeah.
I mean, not a lot, like less than a handful, but it's allowed us to understand what's been going on in some of our more popular destinations, and how things are at. We see the challenges we have here with hotel staffing, and it's not exclusive to Australia. It's a global problem. And so that's allowed us to be able to prepare ahead of the world reopening to, the majority of our travellers are Australians, and there will be an expectation. So it's allowed us to plan and prepare for things that we probably wouldn't have thought of if we didn't have that international exposure. We are keeping our domestic product when borders reopen, and I do totally appreciate that there will be people who are not ready to go overseas. They just want to wait a little bit longer, which is completely understandable. But our domestic product is basically staying there for the inbound market to return. So for those Americans who travel with us, it's there for them from a long-term perspective, but it's always going to be there for any Australians who wish to participate as well. In terms of overseas, we are currently going through the process of recontracting all of our product. We have been taking forward bookings. We've been moving a lot of people who, were scheduled to go in 2020 and then 2021 and now 2022. We're actually open all the way through to the end of 2023 for all of our tours, and most of those are at 2021 prices.
Okay.
So, we're trying to be as proactive and as organised as possible. We're in the process of finalising a lot of our international allocations for the destinations we understand will sell first, and be the most popular as that consumer confidence returns. And just really following what's going on in the media in terms of what countries are reopening to who and how. There's going to be, and this again comes back to your question about the value of travel agents, it's going to be very messy, but every country is going to have different requirements around vaccinations, PCR tests, rapid antigen testing, all that sort of stuff. And it's very confusing for someone to figure that out on their own. And that's another great role for a travel agent to play, and lean on suppliers for that information as well. So it's, just about, everyone says, oh, we've updated our processes and procedures throughout this time. And yeah, we've done that too. But COVID throws another spanner in the works. It's a whole different ball game with managing vaccine certificates and all that sort of stuff. And so that we're working through that as well to try and make it as seamless and as easy for both agents and consumers as possible.
Oh, we can't wait to get these borders open and share, your experiences again for the Australian market. Lisa, thank you so much for being on the Travel Agent Achievers podcast and sharing your story, but also the importance of so many other things with regards to business and the travel industry. I sincerely appreciate everything and your time today. So thank you so much for coming on here.
No worries. Thank you so much for having me.
Wow. What an amazing, insightful conversation that has been with Lisa Pagotto from Crooked Compass. I'm even jumbled up my words because that was just so good. And I hope that you took a lot away from this conversation as well that I've had with Lisa on, what it's been like for somebody on the other side, but also her insight into what we as travel agents and travel professionals could and be doing right now to not only support her, but also to take care of our businesses as well. So some of the things that I've taken away from that is just the proactiveness and the organization of running a travel business, that we need to have things in place. So things like our systems and things like our social media and content, and explaining to our clients, the experts that we are. It was beautiful to see Lisa also touch on, the niche, and as travel professionals, what is the area or the type of person that you want to work with, or the type of experience that you want to create for your clients? So having a look at yourself and also who you love to work with. We've done a podcast episode specifically on this, and we'll link to it in the show notes as well, on how to find your ideal client and how to discover it as well. So coming into your niche there, working with mentors as well for Lisa, taking her to that next level. So having somebody to be able to bounce the business ideas off, and having someone that she can go to and say, hey, what do you think about this? Or having somebody provide some guidance on a direction that you may not actually see for yourself. So I encourage you to surround yourself with the community of people that are going to help you take that next step. And if it's not me or the Travel Agent Achievers community with our programs and our mastermind experiences, but having a look at people who might already be in your orbit that aren't necessarily in travel, but could provide guidance and support in a particular area that you want to work on in your business. Now, if you want to have a look at Crooked Compass and to, what Lisa's experiences are like, then we will have a link to everything inside our show notes on travelagentachievers.com. Just go to the podcast section, or you can check out her website, crooked-compass.com. You'll find her on all the social media platforms as well, as she mentioned, at crooked_compass on Instagram. She's got Facebook, she's got personal accounts as well as the business accounts. So follow her everywhere. Let her know that you've heard, and you listened to this episode, because I'm sure that she will love that she's been able to be there and support you too through this time. Thank you so much for listening. I look forward to catching up with you very soon.